Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Elliott Wave update for BONK. Now yesterday I posted this video and I was looking for a pivot right between the 100 and the 1.382 extension of WFRX for a potential bottom in, looking for a 1-2 setup after that, as we had a series of 5 waves to the upside complete, followed by a sideways correction in a channel. So that's what we were looking for. And as of right now, this is where we are. You can see we got that pivot right between the 1.236 and the 1-to-1. So right in that area we were looking for. And we got this move up, correction back, and we've continued to the upside from there. So pretty nice little setup. Ended up getting there if you got that. But I need to talk about the potential that we actually get a rejection in this area and how you can protect yourself from giving back all those profits if you got in on this pullback, which I suggested waiting and getting the 618 retracement followed by a stop at the low. So if that's what you did, I'm going to show you how to protect against that. But real quick, I'll show you on the larger time frame. I'm not going to go in depth, but we're looking for this to be a wave 1 and 2 as a running flat wave 2 or an A, B, C to the upside, looking for an equal length wave of the A or wave 1 for a C wave, an equal length wave to the upside, something like that. But I'm not going to get into that now. We're just focused on this tiny little 1 hour area right here. So one thing that has me concerned is Bitcoin. I see a potential drop coming literally within the next day or two. So I'm concerned that this might not hold and turn into something bigger. And I just need to explain how that can be. Now this can be counted many different ways. I can even get a flat out of this. Depends how you count. This is a zigzag, for that would be an A wave and a flat, a B here, and then we have a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. And it does look pretty good, as the wave 1 looks to be about the same as the 5th wave. But we did get quite an extended third in that scenario. So hard to discuss what this is. I can also see this as a zigzag and a flat 3, 3, and then we got an ending diagonal here. So it depends how you count it. The important thing is, since I can get this as a flat, as a 3, 3, 5 in that first scenario I showed you, this can also be a W wave. As a flat, we'd be looking for an X wave. This is if we fail, an X wave over here, and then another complex, another correction to the downside, probably a zigzag, something like that. So I just want you to be aware of this scenario, that we could come lower if BTC does dump. So I'm paying close attention to that, and that would just get extended out in time. And if we do get the scenario, I'd more likely see this as an ABC rather than a 1-2, just because of the length of time that would end up creating. This is just guidelines, but again, our ideal areas between the 618 and the 1-to-1 to correct this move to the upside. And if this does end up turning into some sort of X wave, and then we get another 3-wave move down, be more likely a B wave than a wave 2. Just guidelines, but just want to make that clear to you. So clearly this wave is complete, and we're either moving to the upside in another 5-wave move, or this is the first wave in a correction to the downside. Now, if that were the fact, I'm just going to talk about this move to the upside down on the 5-minute. I don't love this as a impulse right here. I like it better as a double zigzag. Main reason being is the series of 1-to-1s we got. Like, we're getting a lot of equal length legs to the upside, which I'm not a big fan of. As you can see, they came pretty close to one-to-ones. And if this is, say, a leading diagonal as a wave 1, and our third is up here, we just passed the one-to-one. Like, it doesn't really have the right look in my point of view. The other issue with this is an impulse. As you can see, we came past the 618, which ideally we hold between the 382 and the 50 for a wave 2, and we've passed that. Obviously, that was a 3-wave correction, but these are just guidelines. It's still a valid 1-2. The third wave isn't the shortest. If this is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the third wave isn't the shortest, so it is a valid impulse. But just putting it all together, these look like one-to-ones. These look like one-to-ones, so potentially something more complex. And again, our correction came deeper than we would like for our wave 2. Just guidelines, not rules. And the third thing I'm seeing here is if we take our first move to the upside, we expect our wave 3 to get to the 1.618. And you can see that's all the way up here at 283.15. So there's a lot of things I don't like about this current wave. So we'll see if this ends up being something more complex and we collapse right now, or if we can turn this into an impulse. The other thing too is when you get a 1-2-1-2, usually we want to see our second 1-2 around the 618. So like this, and then we launch for our 3-4-5, right? You can see the amount of time our second 1-2 is taken. If this is a second 1-2, like a 1-2, 1-2, and we're launching for a third, it's past the 1-to-1, and look at the time. It's taking more time than the first one. So this is more likely on the same degree rather than a degree lesser, right? So I'm getting a little bit concerned about this current count. Areas to pay attention to, and we're there right now, is from this move to the downside, we're at the 618. So do we get rejected from here? And this is something more complex. Or we're complete in 5, and this is some sort of diagonal. Hard count down on these micro levels, right? That's why I pay attention to shape and Fibonacci levels we hit. But you can see we're at the 1-to-1. We're at a 618 retracement from the move to the downside, and it doesn't appear like a clean impulse. Time of this, how deep this correction came, you can see we're starting to stack up evidence that we need, that this is more corrective than an impulse. So these are things I'm looking at when I'm in a trade. So my suggestion is if you want to let this run, this would have to be a 1-2-1-2 in that scenario as an impulse. So I would not hold this trade past the 618. And that's assuming that this is a 1-2-1-2. But I see a lot of evidence against that. Again, we already hit the 1-to-1. Ideally, we hit that 618. This correction came too deep to be a nice impulse, and this is not an ideal impulse, although it can be counted as 5. So those are the reasons I'm concerned about it. So if you say this, okay, this has to be a third wave then, and this is a 1-2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're looking for a 4-5. You can see we got to get quite an extension there to get up to that 1.618. So if you want to be a little more risk adverse, and you're saying, okay, this is a fourth wave in an impulse, then we can drag from that, because this would be our third wave right here. This would be our third wave in this impulse. We're looking for 4-5. So we should not pass the 618. That's invalidation of the fourth wave there. But guidelines, we shouldn't pass the 50. So if you want to go with guidelines, put it right at the 50 there at 237647, depending on your exchange. But yeah, and also probability shift below this previous fourth wave of one lesser degree in that scenario, right? We want to hold the fourth wave, so you can go even tighter just past the 382 if you want. But not looking the greatest. We'll see. I could be proven wrong, and we could just get a spike up here to complete, and then we'd look for our 4-5. But I prefer to, if you're in that situation, to really tighten up. And if you get this, you can look for a re-entry, right? Not a big deal. And if this is a 1-2-1-2, it ends up being that, we'd get a larger correction here. We can get more information. Maybe we consolidate above this downtrend with much more information. But I'd be pretty tight on my long at this point if you decided to take that. Remember, we're at a 1-to-1, 618 to the down move. It doesn't look great. Deep retracement. This is the evidence I look at to push probabilities one way or the other in my mind. Okay, so if this is our A wave, and we've considered the fact that this could be a flat, this is also not long enough to correct that. X waves can be very small, but usually they're a little, at least like a 618. I'm just using probabilities here. We can just collapse here. But I'm just saying most of the time we don't do that. So this would most likely be a 3 wave. We might pull back, drop below this low, come back something like this, make a running flat, and then we get another correction, perhaps a zigzag, since we got a flat up here. And that would take us back to the 618, which is our more expected wave 2. If this is a 1 and a 2, or if this is an A or a B, we come back between the 50 and the 618, look for a re-entry long. So this is what I'm looking for if we fail here. Other ways we can still be mid-correction, which would be quite bullish. I'll show you that here. Is if we end up getting a 3 here, this is a 3, and we make another 3, getting a 1-to-1 up to this area, and then we make 5-wave move, again a running flat. But you can see in these scenarios we eventually get the entry, so I'm not concerned about price getting away. So I hope that was helpful. I would be very careful here on BONK, and if you want to run it as tight as you can, right, this level is probably pretty good, because this would be the fourth wave we're working on at an impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to go with guidelines, just past the 50 and complete invalidation of a wave 4 is the 618. Have to check your own exchange to get those exact numbers. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. All right, guys, but it should be profitable either way. If you ended up taking that trade, it should be a pretty nice trade setup. If you put your stop at the, if you got your entry there somewhere around the 5618, stop at the low, you should be up somewhere almost 2-to-1 currently. Tighten up that stop and let it run. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.